Well, hello everyone. Today I'm at my craft table and I have a really fun project in store. I have an elderly neighbor. I want to say he's like 76. He's a veteran and he helped plow the main road out here after that last horrendous storm. And without his help, we may not have been able to get down the driveway. It's a pretty long right of way. I have to go down to get to the main road, and that's what he plowed. So I want to make him a really nice thank you card. So to start, I have my Sizzix machine, the big kicks, and I picked out this really pretty snowflake die cut. And what I envisioned, we'll see if it works out, right? But what I envisioned was using a, what are these called? A transparency film, and cutting the snowflakes out from this. Now, it says here on the box that you can write on these. I'm not going to write on them, but I might try to see if I can use some colorant on them or something. In addition, I also picked out just a basic thank you block stamp, and I have a stash of goodies like this. I have 4 of these containers. I don't know where I bought them. It must have been years ago because I have no recollection of where I bought them. I divide all my little craft pieces in these containers, and this particular one had some really beautiful snowflakes. So I thought I would add those as an element to the card. In addition, I'm going to use a chalk technique just to give the card a little more bold color. First, I thought I would use probably like a dark blue background and then a lighter blue and then a white. I'll stack those colors together for the base of the card. So these are the 3 colors I picked out. This is the dark blue for the base. Then I have a lighter blue, and then I have a white. That's what the paper looks like stacked. I think that's a good match for these papers. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to chalk the edges of this one. I have a really pretty deep blue here, and as you can see, it does coordinate with these other 2 colors. So I'm going to go ahead and chalk around here, around the 4 edges. If you've never seen this technique before, you just dip your foam sponge, or I buy these makeup sponges at the Dollar Tree and I keep them in a little container. This one happens to be a foam sponge, and I just dip it in the chalk and then I just go around the paper. Now this one isn't as fancy as some of them that I've done before. This one, I'm just giving it some depth. I'm doing a transparent overlay, so I wanted this to have a little bit of color. So here's what the die cut looks like out of the box. They just show it as an example on the packaging with the embossed cardstock they used, but I'm just going to use the transparent overlay. So these cut just like paper do. If you've never used these before, you just roll it through the big kicks just like you would a piece of cardstock or any other paper. Also, I like to get a measurement on what I'm cutting to make sure it's big enough to cover before I cut the transparency, because I have actually cut pieces short before and I didn't have enough to cover the whole die cut. So there you see that will fit nicely over that. And with the big die cuts, you're only going to use the 2 plastic plates. You don't need the multi-purpose platform. And then you just roll it through the machine. And look at that. It cut it. It cut the transparency film, and then you just peel it away. Once you've cut your die cut out and you have this piece of paper left with the shape, you can use it as a stencil. You can use it with paint to paint on furniture, whatever shape you cut out. So that's another reason I like to work with transparency film, because then you have a stencil to keep afterwards. I've done furniture before with stencils and artwork, framed artwork. So there's a lot of versatility in saving this to use as a stencil later. And of course you could reuse it. Now for this part, I'm just going to use a glue stick to adhere the base layers of my cards together. And you can use glue dots or whatever glue you have. I just happen to have a lot of these glue sticks, so I'm using them up as I make crafts. I used a couple of them at Christmas too. Sometimes I'll get fancy and use a paper punch to trim down the corners or to make them oval. I'm not doing that with this card. So that's the base of the card. And you can see how that blue color is cohesive looking with the other blues. So before I got ahead of myself, I went ahead and cut out a piece of white cardstock to go in the center of the card with the thank you message. I also have this blue ink pad, but I haven't used this ink pad in a while, so I'm not even sure it works. If not, I have a black ink pad. At first I thought it was an error because you see in front of the T there's some kind of little squiggly, or I don't know what you call that, but actually that's part of the stamp. So I'm pretty happy with that. Just for fun, I thought I'd go ahead and ink the sides of the card. Now, just like chalking, where you go around all four edges, you can do the same thing with an ink pad. And I'm just going to highlight the edges. That's all I'm doing. Just giving it a little bit of depth by adding that little bit of blue. There's really no right or wrong way to do it. You can't really mess this up. I'm just inking. That's all I'm doing. And that's how this looks when it's done. And then that's going to be the center of the card. So again, I'm going to take my glue stick and I'm going to adhere this down. The thing about glue sticks is they get these little hairy streamers from the glue. That's the only thing I don't like about glue sticks. And I just eyeball it. I don't measure. If I was selling my work, I would measure. But because I'm just doing this for fun, I don't measure it. And that's how the middle looks there. Also, while in my stash of crafts, I came across some of these self-stick rhinestones, but they were too small for the actual embellishment, because if you look here, you'll notice there's like a hole in the embellishment. I'm going to cover that with a rhinestone. I had another stash of rhinestones that are not self-stick that I have to use glue or adhesive, and I do have glue dots. So I'm going to go ahead and put a glue dot over that hole to stick it down. And what my plan is to center it on the card. I'm going to position the snowflake where I want it on the card, and then I'm going to use the glue dot on the back of this rhinestone to glue it down over that center hole. So that's how that looks there with that center rhinestone. I wanted to take these embellishments. Looks like I have quite a few different snowflakes. I have these pretty ones. I also have some that look like this. And similar ones that have glitter. I also have little button snowflakes. But I think I really like these, the translucent ones. I also have this kind. They're glittery. But as I'm looking at the card with the snowflakes, so those are my choices. Translucent or white glitter. So with a glue dot, I just stuck it to the back of the snowflakes. I'm going to go ahead and put these around the outside of the transparency paper. And I didn't place them evenly. I just placed them sporadically around. But then, because I couldn't decide, I liked them both, I'm going to go ahead and put the translucent ones. I'm going to put these under the transparency paper. I took the center rhinestone off. As you can see, I peeled it up there, and I did that for a reason. I didn't like it. What I'm going to do instead is put a translucent one there with the rhinestone on the translucent one. So there's that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just put some rhinestones that are self-stick around the card as well. So there, pretty snowflake card. I think it would have been nice this way too, but I had already stamped the inner message that way. Now, because this is a thank you card for somebody that helped me plow, and I don't want to just give a thank you card, I'm going to put some cash in it. So I don't have to worry about the extra postage because it's oversized or it has more thickness than what's allowed in a first class stamp. I have an oversized envelope. I didn't make it. I just had it in my stash. So I'll be putting it in here with the money in it and then hand delivering it as a personal thank you to my veteran friend. So there you go. Crafting with transparency paper. Thanks for watching. Take care.